Assalamualaikum, good morning, welcome back to Niaga AWANI. My name is Hafiz, and today we're going to talk about something and some issues that are really important for us to discuss and go deeper about it. So KL or Kuala Lumpur has been named one of the world's top 10 crypto-friendly cities in the Multipolitan Crypto-Friendly Cities Index 2026. Alongside the other major digital assets global hubs like Singapore, our neighboring country, Hong Kong, Dubai, and Seoul in Korea. So the ranking signals Southeast Asia's growing influence in digital finance. One of the things with cities like KL gaining ground through strong fintech integration, digital payments, and rising retail crypto adoption. So the question and the biggest question mark here, what's driving this shift? And how can actually Malaysia sustain the momentum? So to unpack and to go deeper the discussion that we talk about, joining me in the studio today is Nirbhay, Handa, the co-founder and the CEO of Multipolitan. How are you, Nirbhay?
I'm very well, Hafiz.
Am I pronounce your name well?
It's spot on.
Nearby, don't far away.
No far away.
No far away. Okay, so the question, I love the straightforward about the question the topic that I mentioned just now. So the KL has entered the global top 10 despite competing with long-established crypto hubs like I mentioned, Singapore, Dubai, Seoul in Korea. So there might be the key factors, and what are actually the key factors behind your finding about it?
Thank you, Hafiz, for the question. Now, we feel at Multipolitan the crypto gravity is moving eastwards. So Multipolitan's Crypto-Friendly Cities Index 2026 ranks KL as amongst the top 10 cities. And we went through a multi-metric analysis to really analyze the friendliness of the cities to digital assets, right? So initially, we looked at various countries, right? Which countries are FATF compliant? What is the legal standing of digital assets within this country? Then we looked at crypto trading volumes per population. And after that, we narrowed down in cities which are higher on digital maturity. And once we had that pool of those cities, then we looked at different metrics like regulatory clarity, digital infrastructure, and crypto adoption. And looking at this multi-metric analysis, we had KL, which was ranked amongst the top 10 cities in the world.
So that's impressive. So Malaysia crypto ecosystem appears heavily driven by retail participation, as you mentioned. And the question is, how strong the retail adoption? Is it enough to sustain KL's position? Or maybe we'd like to call it greater institutional involvement that needed long term?
I think it's a great question, Hafiz. As you know, retail adoption can be speculative. Retail investors enter during bull markets and they retreat during downturns, whereas institutional investors are usually in it for the long term. And if Malaysia wants to see economic stimuli, which is leading to job creation, then we need a lot of institutional investment coming into digital assets, right? And that's why there needs to be a narrative internationally positioning KL as a city for institutional investment.
Yeah. So I read, and based on your findings, which is you suggest that competitiveness is now shaped more by regulatory clarity and digital infrastructure rather than the tech incentive. So why is this happening, and what does is mean to emerging cities?
I think it's a great question. I think tax incentives are more relevant for retail investors because you could be domiciled in a country with no capital gains tax, or you could be in a country which is fiscally neutral, can benefit you. Whereas when it comes to institutional investors, they are looking at certainty over tax arbitrage. They want to know that if they are coming in, they are protected by the government and there is regulatory clarity, right? So low tax without stable governance and regulatory clarity means very little for a city or a country.
All right. Thank you for the answer. So as we going through the discussion, we can see that Southeast Asia is one of the fastest growing region for digital assets adoption, and the structurals and economic factors are driving by the growth. And why, actually, the question is, why is the region, this is Southeast Asia, drawing global attention?
No, amazing. Great question. And as you know, Hafiz, we have almost 700 million people in Southeast Asia. 50% of them are below the age of 30. So we have a young, digitally native population. So I would say Firstly, it's because of the demographics. Secondly, if you look at places like Philippines, you're looking at billions of dollars in remittances. And that can all be replaced by stable coins, right? Eradicating intermediaries, reducing cost. So that's the second piece. And the third piece is, I think governments in Southeast Asia, they're coming up with regulatory sandboxes, right? Particularly Malaysia as well. SEC has given guidelines around digital assets since 2019, which is very early in the digital asset ecosystem. So creating regulatory sandboxes for businesses to come and experiment is also driving this narrative, Hafiz, towards Southeast Asia.
Yeah. Speaking of compete for digital assets, innovation and capital, and we can see that KL currently have a lot of advantages when we talk about it. And where we have a lot of advantages and we might face some, risks behind it. So your POV about this?
Yeah, so I think KL has some incredible advantages, overall. I think the regulatory framework here is pragmatic and credible. There needs to be more work around brand building internationally, right? We always hear Hong Kong, Abu Dhabi, Dubai in the media, in the international media. But there's some amazing things happening in Malaysia. You have a prime minister who's extremely crypto forward, right? Bank Negara is coming up with a framework around stable coins, which are pegged to ringgit. And at the same time, you've had the first approval for a crypto bank, which is Sharia compliant, Facet. So there's some amazing developments, and the world really needs to know about it and create a narrative around Malaysia globally.
So what are the other advantages that you might tell us in your finding?
I think one of the great advantages Malaysia has is we're walking into a remote first world, right? So you could be working for a company in New York City, but very well be based in Kuala Lumpur, right? So the geo arbitrage is in favor of Malaysia. You have access to great talent here at a moderate cost. The number two piece, which really works for Malaysia, is the founder mobility. What that means is that if you're a high caliber founder, you could move to Malaysia through things like Malaysia Tech Entrepreneur Pass, right? Through Make Malaysia Second Home provision, set up businesses here and build companies, right? And that way, Malaysia can overcome talent shortages, right? And prepare for the future. And this has been a bit of the recipe for success in the Middle East, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. The ability to hire foreign founders and get them on your turf to build companies, right? The third piece is, obviously, Malaysia remains a tax-conducive jurisdiction, right? Malaysia has territorial tax regime, which is very beneficial for international investors. And looking at the overall geopolitical flare-ups around the world, I believe Malaysia can truly benefit from that.
So, as we mentioned, as I told you that Malaysian SC finding, KL has been ranked as top 10 as a crypto-friendly country. What is the thing in common between this nation that actually put KL in this top 10 category?
I think that's a great question. Firstly, it starts with the regulatory framework. I think the Malaysian government has taken a crypto-forward stance. Bank Negara is doing some pioneering work in that space. You've had approvals like Facet that have come through. Tokenization of Sukuk. Malaysia remains the leader when it comes to Islamic finance globally. So these are some incredible things that are taking place here. And because of that, it's ranked amongst the top 10 cities in Multipolitan's Crypto-Friendly Cities Index of 2026.
Yes, and we cannot be comfortable about the ranking that we achieved for the past few years. So we have to look forward the prediction for the next 5 or 10 years. And speaking of, the real world adoption, which is looking beyond trading, which all digital asset used to have the strongest potential in this real world adoption. So for Malaysia, for the next 5 or 10 years, what we can see?
I think real-world adoption is going to be really relevant in Malaysia because Malaysia is an export-oriented economy, right? And if you look at Asian Development Bank, they're saying there's a trade finance gap of almost $2.5 trillion globally. So supply chain tokenization could be extremely relevant for Malaysia. That's number one. Number two piece is, again, Malaysia remains an epicenter for trade. It's a very important trade corridor. So can payments be settled through stablecoins, right? And can we eradicate intermediaries and reduce cost? I think that can be the second use case scenario. And the third use case scenario would be, if you look at countries like Estonia, they have something called the X Road, which is based on blockchain. countries like Netherlands and Sweden, you can actually do your land registry on blockchain-based protocols. So can Malaysia incorporate blockchain technology in its civic administration to enhance productivity? Could be the third use case scenario, Hafiz.
And time is moving fast. We face a lot of challenges, uncertainties and risks coming, keep changing along the way. So what does KL need to do to stay in this rank or could be better in the next years?
I think we feel that within the blockchain ecosystem, it's going to be a multipolar world, right? So one of the best things that Malaysia possibly can do is stick with inch wide, mile deep philosophy. What that means is take a specialization and become an industry leader in that. For example, Malaysia is already on the forefront of Islamic finance. So can it remain the pioneer when it comes to Sharia compliant products globally, right? So when you see international narratives, Singapore is doing a lot of work around G10 currencies and stablecoins. So can Malaysia sustain and maintain its narrative as being the leader within the Islamic finance? The second piece, can it become a place for hiring great talent? And can companies look at geo arbitrage in Malaysia and hire talent here in a remote first world? So I think these two narratives are going to play an important role ensuring Malaysia remains amongst the top 10 crypto-friendly cities. And obviously, it's a very crypto-forward environment, so that plays very much in favor of Malaysia.
Speaking of that really, KL, in your finding, is KL really ready for this?
100%, most definitely. And I think that's one of the reasons as a business, Multipolitan, we're looking to set up in Malaysia as well, because we are very bullish on what Malaysia has to offer. In the future, cities that are really going to thrive are going to be cities that reduce friction for entrepreneurs to come and build. And Malaysia already has some great frameworks, as I spoke about, the Tech Entrepreneur Pass, to come here and build from here. And this is going to give Malaysia an added advantage competing against different geographies for talent, because now countries are competing for talent.
Yes.
We have 300 million people on the move.
That.
Yeah, we have 40 million digital nomads on the move. So can Malaysia attract them over other countries? And I think that's where there needs to be effort.
Okay, based on your finding and in your explanation, KL has implemented all the best practices possible. So what else, the other best practices that might be KL should implement to be better than today? Because we cannot be comfortable with the ranking, with the position right now.
Absolutely. And in life, Hafiz, we should never be comfortable, right? Comfort leads to complacency.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So you're absolutely spot on. I think there needs to be focus on creating institutional depth, right? So retail adoption is great. Retail adoption creates awareness and momentum, but can we bring institutional adoption here, right? And now it's a proven fact that Malaysia locally can create international brands. And you can see that with things like Luno. You can see that with things like CoinGecko. You can see that with things like EtherScan. These are Malaysian brands operating on a global scale. So there's no shortage of talent here, right? So just fostering that ecosystem. And the final piece would be, again, the most important thing that investors are looking for is stable governance combined with neutrality and rule of law. So, Malaysia has taken a resolute stance around bad actors in the industry.
Definitely.
And that builds counterparty trust with institutions globally. So we're on the right path. We just need to continue doing same things we're doing. And then also we have such a crypto-forward government, which plays very much in favor of Malaysia.
We need to gear up so that we're not left behind. So with the central bank exploring digital currencies, rising stablecoin use and tighter global regulation, how do you see digital asset landscape evolving, and what could KL, Kuala Lumpur, realistically play?
Great question. I believe, stable coins are to payment gateways what WhatsApp is to SMS, right? So I think we're going to see, particularly in the global south, where a big population is unbanked because they don't even have digital IDs, for example, right? Stablecoin is becoming lifeline for the unbankable. If you go to places like Nigeria, if you go to places in Africa, right? So now everybody can bank because of stable coins, right? Blockchain can provide very cheap digital identity protocols that can give you an ID, right? So stable coins, this is going to be an era of the stable coins, right? The second piece is tokenization is going to become much bigger than cryptocurrencies. tokenization is just a much faster way to invest. It's a much cheaper way to invest. It creates liquidity, creates secondary markets. It's 24/7. So even the conventional assets are going to get tokenized. The final piece is you're going to have multiple winners in this space.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not going to be just one city that dominates the entire digital asset ecosystem. New York is going to remain relevant for liquidity and capital formation. Zurich may remain relevant for wealth preservation. Hong Kong may remain relevant for tokenization. Singapore may be relevant for stable coin framework. KL will remain the pioneer for Islamic finance and also for geo arbitrage and talent and creating shared service centers in Malaysia. So it's going to be a multipolar outlook, and different cities are going to be functional peers to each other.
Mr. Nirbhay, I maybe this is the last question for our discussion. I love and always to feed peoples and some part of the communities that might be not really understand about crypto. And so, since you are expert here, so what are you going to tell to the audience about the cryptos and everything, so that they don't misunderstand about this? And KL has been named 10 crypto-friendly city. So this is something that we should be proud of.
100%. And it's a moment to be proud of. Essentially, I think a lot of people confuse crypto with the price action of Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? But I want people to look into the structural layer of digital assets, which is blockchain, which is a transformative technology. It has the potential to increase productivity exponentially when it comes to civic administration, right? It has the potential to benefit millions of people around the world. And things like stable coins are now catching up, which work on blockchain, particularly in a supply chain focused economy like Malaysia, where we're exporting a lot of goods. It can prevent counterfeit. It can also help you track provenance of the goods you're exporting, right? So there are far-reaching benefits of blockchain as a technology, and it's about time. While Malaysia has a very crypto-forward government, we also become a center of innovation around this technology.
So I think your answers and your explanation is very well informative, and I learned something new. Everybody is learning something new. So thank you once again, Mr. Nirbhay Handa, co-founder and CEO of Multipolitan. I hope we could sit and discuss more about this. And of course, we look forward, and we have a lot of work to do to make sure we secure a better position in the next your next finding in crypto-friendly cities in the Multipolitan crypto-friendly. Once again, thank you so much, and we will be right back.